Okay, in this request I have a flashlight part, and we see the top and the bottom are two different kinds of designs, but I'm going to start with what looks the most obvious first, and that's this basic circular shape. Now again, whenever I do videos like this when I don't have the object, I try and make it as general as possible. So I'm not going to use dimensions, I just want to show the method that I would use to go about making this. So I start with two circles that share the same center point. I'll make a rectangle and make the midpoint of this match up with the center of this. I would measure this distance across. I'd also make a line across the top here. Oop, what happened there? Highlight it and make that a construction line, and then I can measure from top to bottom, measuring from here to here, and be able to put in an actual dimension that makes sense. Trim off the parts that we would not be using, and extrude this some distance up. And may have to refresh my memory on what this looks like. So I can make something that looks similar. Okay, now that we have the basic shape, make a new sketch on top. We're going to project the geometry of what was already there, and we are going to make a new circle. On the inside, showing this line and this line. You can dimension between the two. They should be the same, so make the one a function of the other. We can use our 2-point rectangle tool again. And again, we're going to match up the midpoint to the center point. Then measure and see how skinny that actually is. Oop. Didn't mean to do that. Trim off the parts that we're not going to use. And here I would make a circular pattern, but it gets a little tricky because there's a couple pieces that are missing. So I'm going to count how many there are, but I'm going to pretend like there's another one here, 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 and here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm going to say circular pattern around this axis, and there are 16. And it doesn't want to give me that. Sometimes circular patterns can be tricky. It looks like we can edit the lines around it though. So I'm going to trim off all of these sections. I'm going to trim off just a couple and see if it gives me that as an option now, because before just treated as one big thing. Looks like this is going to work, so I'm going to continue to trim around the outside edge. Now we can go and select this pattern. Switch it to cut. Tell it how far in it's cutting. Now I'd go ahead and make a new sketch. Get this oriented the same way we had it before. Project our old geometry. And I am going to get rid of these extra ones. So I'm going to make a circle. It snaps to my old outside and inside. And I want to get rid of these two sections. So those two are accounted for, and the other two. Okay, I should be able to just highlight and delete the other parts. Go back to extrude. We're going to switch this to cut just as soon as I have them selected. And there we go. That part looks pretty good. So now we'd flip this over to the other side. Take a look at the other picture here. Make a new sketch. And I can't tell how this all lines up, but let's just assume it was something kind of like this. This circle is that. We are going to have it, I think, tangent to the outside edge. Resize it as needed. These shapes are going to have to be, looks like rectangles, and that might be another circle like this. I can't quite tell from the picture. So I'm going to make a construction line. Make the exact same thing we had on the top, down here on the bottom. I want the two circles to be equal to each other. Still want it tangent. And I'm going to go and add these little rectangles in as well. Okay, just like before, I want the midpoints of the rectangle to line up with the center of my circle. I want them to have an equal width and equal length. And I can't tell from the picture, but I think we're going to have the corners of this be tangent to the edge of the circle. Okay, I'm going to extrude each of these up just a little bit. I know they're not all the same height, but we'll get just a little bit first. I'll make a new sketch on the top of the circles. So I'm just projecting geometry, and that might cause issues later, so I'm going to delete it. I'll make those just a little bit longer. I'll make a new sketch on this. With a vertical constraint on the midpoint, so I know it's still aligned. I don't care about how much this hangs over. I do care about how much this cuts in. So that'd be something you'd measure here. change my distance to all, and I'll cut through both of those at the same time. And the last thing that you have is some kind of a pattern on the inside of this. So first, it looks like the inside of this is cut out more than the other little hole. So we'll change that to a cut. Instead of 0.125, we'll make that 0.1. I'll project geometry so I can see what's happening. I'm going to extrude just the one piece. It's not going to go all the way up to that surface. I can make a circular pattern in a 3D view. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to assume there's 10. That should be pretty close to what you were trying to make. Let me know if this doesn't answer your question.